This is a talk about the overview of oracles. So we have been working on oracles mostly from the security and the cryptography point of view. But the motivation for me to prepare and present this talk is because I feel many of the real systems they face not only security challenges but also economic manipulations. To the extent that I still don't think we have the right tool to really understand and quantify the risk introduced by oracles in DeFi services and so on. So that's the kind of the conversation I hope to have with the diverse experts here. Already a question?
Do you agree with the word oracle? Because in ancient Greece, oracles spoke in, some kind of a hidden language, which of course could be interpreted in any way through future events. Oracle is unfortunately not the right one.
Probably, I think it when this term is picked before a lot of the companies started to working on this, and yeah, I haven't thought about that. I have to admit. Okay, so yeah, towards to kind of arrive at to provide the background for a discussion on the risks of economic implications of oracles. My talk is focusing on the overview. So I will talk about why do we need an oracle and what is an oracle, how to build one, diving into a little bit of the technical challenges and some of the solutions from the security point of view. As I said, the challenges are not only cryptographic challenges and finally, I want to share with you something I recently sort of stumbled upon, an interesting new economic role taken by Oracle nodes that's known as Oracle extractable values. And I will also talk about some open problems. Okay, so why do we need an Oracle? I will pick an application that shows both the usefulness and the danger of Oracle. Okay, so can you show me your hand if you know what the over-collateralized loan is and how it works roughly? Oh, yeah, there's sufficient. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, so it's a very kind of common, widely kind of adopted DeFi applications. Examples include BZX, MakerDAO, Aave, Compound, etc. Even if you don't know how it works, the idea at a very high level is the following. Well, to lend money on smart contract, you cannot hold the lender, you cannot hold the borrower accountable for their debt, right? Because users are anonymous on blockchain. So you have to ask for collateral. Over-collateralized loan simply means that the collateral value exceeds the value being borrowed. For example, 150% is a common value. That means if you deposit $150, you can at most borrow $100 worth of ETH. Okay, so now it's clear that the smart contract need to know the price of ETH for this to work. And furthermore, in order to keep the loan sort of in good, healthy state, the smart contract also need to monitor the price changes, such that when the collateral threshold drops below a threshold, health threshold, safety threshold, the debt position will be liquidated. So the liquidation is triggered also by external information. So this example shows at least two places where the smart contract needs accurate and up-to-date data about some assets. Well, so problem is this blockchain is self-contained, so you need a third party or external system to sort of push the external data to the blockchain. And this system is known as oracles, or good or bad. But oracles are crucial, as you can see, because reporting inaccurate or stale information, or manipulation of oracle output can mess up the economic guarantees entirely. If we are supposed to have a unbreakable computer, this a world computer in the sky, provided by the blockchain. But if you can mess with the input to that unhackable computer, a lot of benefits are negated. In DeFi, specifically, various DeFi protocols rely on hinges on the correct functioning of this oracle. And the danger is not theoretical; it's very real. Let me just show you a failure pattern that that is supposed to be avoided, but apparently we just saw it recently last week. So okay, so remember the need for Ether price in this lending protocol, dummy example. So one may attempt to think, why don't we have the smart contract to call into a AMM pool to kind of query the current price? This is this is a very dangerous thing to do, because as many of you may know, spot price of an asset in AMM is subject to manipulation. And in particular, flash loan really makes such manipulation easy, because you don't really need even like any significant investment. You can borrow money to manipulate the oracle, then use your profit to pay back the loan. So the general manipulation strategy is, in this case, for example, the attacker would want to dump ETH on this AMM to drive down the price, so that now the attacker can borrow Ether from the lending platform cheaply. And the attacker, but ETH is still worth the same in any other markets that's not manipulated. So the attacker can go to another market, sell the ETH, and pocket the price difference. Right, it's a high-level attack strategy. You may be wondering really how feasible this is, because it seems like you may also lose something when you dump the Ether, and so on and so forth. But let me just tell you right away that this has happened a lot in practice. Probably the first, most well-known one is the BZX Oracle attack. Here I'm showing one transaction taking this many steps to do this kind of attack. So the profit is 2,000 something Ether. It drove the Ether price down in some, if I'm not mistaken, Uniswap or Kyber pool from 200 to 100. So it's like 50% discount. The interesting thing is that this entire attack is funded by flash loan, so the attacker doesn't need to come up with a stash of Ether to dump. Also interesting enough, the flash loan is also taken out of the victim. So the BZX offers both over-collateralized loan as well as flash loan. So the attacker leverage both. And this is not the only example. There's some analysis showing that in from 2020 to 2022, there has been 40-something such attacks, and the total loss is like hundreds of millions of dollars. And but of course, nothing is more kind of in terms of monetary value. Nothing is larger than what happened last Friday. There has been a major market crash, like Binance, leading to $19.5 billion worth of assets liquidated. Well, I don't have too much intelligence to say about the details here, because it feels like the story is still the analysis is still being done. But some articles attribute this crash to a poor Oracle design. Basically, some Oracle in this Binance exchange that is triggering all this liquidation tracks the spot price. That apparently is one of the key reasons. Okay. I mean, so far I really haven't told you about too much about how Oracle works, but the point to take away so far is that while oracles they are conceptually simple systems to push data to blockchains. Price is one type of data which is crucial for DeFi, but it has other applications. We will come back to that. They are crucial systems and they are big obvious targets to attack. This attack includes cyber attacks, cryptography, cyber, but I just mean hackings and so on, as well as economic manipulations, right? And the malfunctioning of Oracle is often catastrophic for DeFi, and the implications are even very hard to understand. Take the Friday crash as an example. It's not entirely clear, to me at least, whether Oracle is the biggest reason of the failure, or or because the interaction of these oracles and the plethora of the DeFi services together is quite hard to understand. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
It must be off-chain because the example that you described was that the price was in a liquidity pool on-chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, using on-chain price is like very dangerous because of flash loan manipulation. But in the Binance case, it's off-chain.
But I mean, like your definition is that they are.
Oh yeah, right.
Sometimes people build on-chain systems that are.
I think in general that Oracle should be probably defined as, in terms of data fees, yeah, probably both on-chain and off-chain are valid, definitely. I focus on off-chain here, yeah.
So just to clarify, I mean, so how many oracles are there? So in your examples, the DeFi application is just using one oracle, like price from one oracle. But there are is it possible somehow to bring like multiple oracles, like average price? So because you can't like hack everything at once.
Yes, I mean that's I will get to that. So in this attack, per se, they are using two oracles, one from Uniswap, the other from CyBER, but both the same type of oracles. So a better strategy would be to use sort of an oracle that sources data from a more diverse source. So oracles typically also aggregate from different sources, so that these applications, they need not source from different source. Data origins if they use an oracle that already does that. Does that make sense?
So in a sense, so they already use some aggregated.
Right.
data.
Yeah. That's like a preferred way to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think off-chain here means a different place, not necessarily not a chain, meaning it is off a particular chain where the price is being fed. It could be from another chain and it's still off-chain.
Yeah, let me actually proceed. I think there are more answers to these aspects. Okay. Right. Yeah, before I proceed, I want to remind you that although price fees are such a prominent applications of oracles today, they are not the only type of data that oracles can provide. There's no inherent limitations like that. Moreover, providing data is not the only job an oracle can do. I will give you more examples later. But okay, for now, if we want to build an oracle to source price data or other finance data from some off-chain source, such as an API or a website, then how do we do that? This seems straightforward. So let's go through some strawman ideas first. So the first idea is, why don't we build let the validator or the miner to fetch the data and insert it to the transaction execution as it builds a block. The problem here is that unless we have some way to kind of authenticate the data, there's a danger of this single party to lie about the data, and right, because it's just one party proposing the block. This party, in general, there's no good way to verify that a piece of data indeed came from a good source. So the next idea is to replace this single party with a committee of parties, applying the usual trick of decentralization. Now you have a group of nodes. If you make some honest majority assumption, you can imagine some sort of a majority vote among these nodes could give you some tolerance against the individual nodes lying. And the more another term to say is that these nodes you can run a consensus protocol among these nodes to mask out the potential failures. It's also very important to introduce redundancy in data sources and do the aggregation. There has been catastrophic failures where DeFi applications relies on a single source, such as Coinbase Pro has this incident several years back, where the Oracle provides the kind of a run price for stable coins, and if you rely on that Oracle alone, then there was liquidations triggered and so on.
Quick clarification. This is not like set of nodes. This is on blockchain.
This is a set of off-chain servers.
These are off-chain servers.
Yes, in this diagram. So I think what's the tricky part of all of this? One of the most tricky part is how to do this aggregation in a good way, especially during market volatility. How do you rule out outliers, and how do you assign weights to different sources? And because these nodes, they are going to, if they source from different places, they are going to get different, maybe slightly different data. But maybe in the volatile markets, they will get somewhat drastically different data. Then some data probably need to be treated as outliers, but that seems to be a kind of tricky trade-off between sensitivity and accuracy and stability. So there are several. There's this nice paper, SOK paper on oracles in AFT 21, basically comparing different solutions along several axes. And the aggregation method is one of the columns here. If you're interested in how these oracles compare, this paper is a good place to start. Okay.
In just taking a big picture view here. In economics, we know that you cannot write contingent contract on an event which can be manipulated. So the first thing you need is a state of the world which cannot be manipulated, like weather or something like that. And then you write your contract. Is there a reason why you want to start with the contingency, which is manipulable? And then now you seem to be saying, if you do such and such things, you can make it less manipulable. That seems like, unless you have a specific reason, you want to make the contract contingent on a price, which can be potentially manipulated. And they do, of course. One of the contracting parties would have incentives to manipulate it. You seem to be starting with a setup where the oracle is, you have the wrong choice for the oracle. And then now you're fixing it at the edges where it is less manipulable. I don't know whether that's the right strategy. I mean, I don't know.
So
everything is not weather.
Huh?
Everything is not weather that everybody can observe.
I know, but I'm saying unless you have an efficiency reason.
Well, I think
the contract contingent on something manipulative.
I think there's I can So these applications like lending platform, they seem to need to know the price asset price to manage their risk. And the price asset price is it both changes because of people trading and because of we can say manipulation. So it's not like weather in that way, but it seems necessary for these applications to work. That's the starting point.
Like codes, like for example, you should be thinking about libel, right? When you're writing contracts based on references, and the references an aggregate of different markets,
Right.
you start to have the same issue with traditional markets as well, where exactly to your point, there's manipulation. So I think this is similar. The analogy would be you're referencing a rate. You want to have some consensus price or action, and like how are you going to actually source the data to actually decide what state you are actually in?
And also, even weather data is manipulable when it comes to reporting.
That's another manipulation. No, if you can report whatever you want, which is untrue, you're right. We have a problem too. Yeah.
And how else are you going to report it? You need to trust where the source of the data. And this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was reminded that we have 7 minutes left. I have probably more slides than that. Okay. So it's a good kind of so far it's like overview of the high level way to do oracles. And next, I want to spend several slides on I think interesting technical challenge that the solution of which is known as zk-TLS. I want to briefly talk about that because that's something I have been working on in the past a little bit. So here we want to extend the ability of oracles to access more types of data, and in particular data that is private, behind a password, for example, your personal data that only you can access. For example, you can think of applications like credentialing or age verification, etc. So the zk-TLS protocol, the goal is best explained with an example. So imagine we have two parties talking over the internet. So Alice and Bob here. For example, for some reason Bob is doing a gatekeeping for a service that's professors only. Okay, and Alice, being an assistant professor at Yale, say that I should be able to join this professor only thing. But so here's my workday profile. I take a screenshot and show it to you. It says I'm an assistant professor. Why don't you let me in? So the problem, of course, is that the screenshot is not verifiable in any way. So how can Alice prove to the verifier that a piece of website, screenshot or a web page is authentic? So that's the first goal. The other goal is that Alice may not want to show the verifier the entire web page. That web page on Workday may also have like others, home address, salary, etc. Alice may want to redact those information before sharing the web page too. So this goal can be a pretty general this problem. So you want to prove statements about the data that is not directly accessible by a verifier. So here the cryptographic idea is to leverage the secure protocol with which Alice accessed the data. This protocol is known as TLS, and that's behind the green lock in your browser. So basically, TLS is a good starting point, but it doesn't have the right cryptographic properties. In particular, data that you retrieve through TLS is not digitally signed. So you cannot forward the data to somebody else and still convince the authenticity of the data. In our prior work, which has been several years now, we explored different solutions to this problem. And these kind of protocols are now known as zk-TLS. There's like now several more companies kind of doing this, expanding on the ideas that we explored several years back. So coming back to oracles, why is this useful for oracles? Well, this allows the smart contract to sort of enforce, for example, age verification with the help of ZK-TLS protocols. You can also have a committee of nodes and to kind of collectively verify this. And this is something that Chainlink is doing with the DECO work, but many other companies are also implementing similar things. Okay, so let me quickly talk about getting to the, I think maybe more interesting economic aspects of oracles, the oracle extractable value in just a few slides. As I said, providing data is not the only job an oracle can do. Already, if you look at Chainlink's product offering, you will see that the data is one thing, one of several things. They in general try to connect the smart contracts to off-chain systems, be it off-chain data source, off-chain computation resource, off-chain randomness, or other blockchains. That's part of the off-chain thing. You can connect Ethereum to another chain through, for example, their CCIP service. But recently, there's something interesting happening, that this Oracle system also runs auctions. So that's quite interesting. Why do they need to run auctions? So remember, in this over-collateralized loan, oracles can trigger liquidation. And liquidation is like a big profit, money on the table. So bots would like to backrun oracle updates. So the first bot that landed after the oracle update got to do the liquidation and basically get the money on the table. So it's undesirable from Oracle's perspective that these bots, they compete and end up paying a lot of the profits to the proposer. So so the kind of this money is called Oracle extractable value. I don't want to give a full definition because I haven't really found the one that's like
A quick question. Are the auction outcomes less manipulable than other ways of, is that right? Or is that why you do the auctions? Or
so let me finish this slide, maybe it will become clear. So the Oracle, instead of sending the updates to the public mempool, Oracle first organized an auction among liquidators. And only the highest paying liquidator gets the exclusive access to the update. This essentially removes the on-chain competition so that the competition doesn't translate to paying money to the proposer. They call this recapturing this liquidation profit. Chainlink Saver SVR is an example, and they are currently running this auction on MavShare. And they are experimenting with Aave as the lending platform. I found some interesting data on how much that has been captured in this system. It's on the orders of like millions of dollars, $3 million for now, so far, and the 2/3 goes to Aave and the 1/3 goes to Chainlink. So that's basically, that's a new development, not like in last several months. So it's an interesting kind of mechanism to study. Right, so there are many questions. I can talk about offline. Before I wrap up, I want to just call the attention of yours to really to kind of these questions that we don't understand well from the economic point of view. It seems rather complicated. The implication of oracles seems rather complicated, and as I said, it's not clear how to systematically quantify or limit or bound the damage that the oracle can do to a DeFi protocol. I can talk more about this offline. Yeah, if you're interested. Yeah. How much time do I have? Yeah. Okay, that's good enough. Want to quickly mention that the ability to prove, internet data is authentic has, wide applications. So for example, imagine what if you can add the integrity proof to Internet Archive, which currently basically comes with no, integrity proofs at all. So anyone could forge a history. And even AI, there has been this work proposing using oracles to sort of prove and training data came from good source, like your medical record used in, if you want to sell your data to data, I don't know, training purposes, if you want to sell, then the data buyer can enforce a quality control using oracles. Right? Okay, so to wrap up, oracles, they are systems to supply verifiable data to smart contracts. They originated as this single purpose thing, but now extend to many other domains. And generalized oracles can connect smart contracts to not just off-chain data, but the off-chain systems in general. The real-world systems, they face challenges both from security point of view and the economic manipulation. And as they participate in more interesting economic mechanisms, such as the auction, things get further complicated. And understanding all of this requires interdisciplinary expertise, which is the conversation I look forward to having with all of you. Okay, that's it.